Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Strange Normal. My name is Brad Burnham. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life that basically this is not a recording, so this is going to be a little bit different. Welcome back, though. This is a new year, 2023, I think it is, and we're going to have a fantastic time. I'm going to bring in my co-host, Mikey, tonight. How are you doing, Mikey?
Doing great. What's up, man? Always a pleasure to be on Strange Normal.
Yeah, we have a power pack night, and I can tell already because we've had so many trouble just trying to get this ththing rolling here. I want to talk specifically to the audience right now, just for a second. Continue to hit that like button, and every time you hit that like button, I'm sure that YouTube kind of shares this and kind of pushes it out to more people. So hit that like button and comment, because the more interaction you have with this thing, the more YouTube actually pushes this out live stream to more people. In fact, let me know where you guys are. I want to know exactly where everyone is. So put in the chat where your location is. I'd love to see where you are. See if we are actually international. I saw someone already put in that they're from Australia, and we're in low latency right now. So I'm seeing this 5 seconds behind. That's incredible, instead of like 30. So we're excited to be with a new system, and this new system is going to be able to provide us with new functionality that lets us show you different things really quick and really fast. So the show is going through, and this is all going to be cut out, guys. All this fluff that I'm telling, but if you're here and you're watching, you're one of the people that I want to talk to you right now, because this show is going to change just a little bit, and we're going to hide this stream for a week. As soon as it ends, we're going to put out clips from it, and then we're going to show it at the end of the week. And so that's what's going to happen. I want you guys to continue to like, comment, and all this other stuff, but you shouldn't share it right now, because it'll disappear right after the show. So that's the only time I'm going to say this, but let's get right into it, because we got a huge show tonight. Mikey, I'm excited you're here, because I always appreciate your commentary.
Yeah, man, we make a great team. We've actually been to churches and different things like that together, and it's pretty cool. It's like having the OGs back again.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, Mikey and I are going up to Chicago. We're going to be doing a short series on this, and it's going to be interesting because we've been invited up there. And if you want us to speak at your church, of course, give your pastor Starfall, or of course, this is not connected with Little Light, so give them Starfall from this channel, or give them Little Light's documentary called Disclosed. And I think that would be fantastic. Mikey, you know more about that than I do.
If you're in the Chicago area, come see us.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll put that information in the description when it's over here. Anyway, we got some major things going on here, so I want to get right into it. Tonight, this is our topics we have. We got talking about time dilation, the connection, and this is all, we're going to tie this all in. It's really interesting. All this is tied in, that stuff that you don't hear your pastor talk about. We're going to talk about it straight from the Bible tonight. Time dilation, connection, close contact and radiation. Jimmy Carter's UFO report, he actually filed one before he was president. I thought that was interesting. And Neil Armstrong's UFO, there's a lot of controversy about that, but there's interesting commentary, I think, that you'll find fascinating. 5 reasons UFOs are demonic. It's the last one. In fact, we're going to give you a few more than those, so stay tuned until the end. You won't want to miss that. And of course, maybe, just maybe, if we have time, we'll do some open phones, and you can see the number rotating in the banner down at the bottom. So, Mikey, I think we're going to get right into it. So let's look at this first footage we have. I'm going to bring up my notes here, be a little less official. And so the first video we have, we're going to talk about time dilation connection. This video is interesting. This is the longest clip I have, but it's going to have a short story from this lady that was an experiencer. And this was a professionally done video, so I might get nabbed for taking up someone else's content. But this is very interesting. I want to do some commentary on it. So let's dig right into it. You ready?
The night of the 17th of July, 1991, started just like any other.
The kids were in bed, they were asleep, and I had a friend who came to visit me. He'd actually talked about marriage at that point.
Thank you. Oh, that's the way I like it.
It was quite warm, so we decided to go outside on the back patio just to have our tea out there. It's a nice, beautiful, summer night.
Oh, beautiful night.
Oh, it's nice out here.
Your scalloped potatoes are incredible.
Thanks, it's the cream.
And I remember all of a sudden feeling this strange humming in my abdomen. And I said, "Do you feel that?" He said, "Yes, I was going to ask you if you felt that."
Okay, what is that? That's weird.
And I said, "Look up."
Tom.
Wow.
This thing was about the size of a football field, if not bigger. It was cloaked, and I say that because the only way that you could see the exact shape of it was that it blocked out the stars.
That's crazy.
There were no lights, no sound, and it was just floating along, and then it stopped dead on a dime. I felt claustrophobic, and I said, "Well, is it going to stop coming down?" He couldn't handle it.
This is dangerous. We should go inside. Come on. Let's go inside.
"I'm out of here. I'm going inside, and you'd better come in with me." He ran inside. I stayed there. To me, it felt like maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the most, and I was just watching it. And then it was there, and then it wasn't.
There you are.
He just said, "Where have you been?
Where'd you go?
I've looked all over for you. You've been gone for quite a while."
What? I've been right here. I'm watching whatever that was.
Listen, I came out with the tea. You left.
I said, "I didn't go anywhere."
What are you
I
talking
looked everywhere
about?
for you. I went into the woods. I went to the end of the driveway trying to find you.
An hour.
I said, "I was outside, just for a few minutes." And he said, "No, you've been gone over 45 minutes. I said, "That's impossible."
Tom, I've been standing right here looking up at whatever that was in the sky.
Yeah, for
I'm
now.
telling you, I was only out there 2 or 3 minutes. I think you're just, a little nervous about this thing you saw. And he said, "No." He said, "Look at the clock."
I thought I should stick around because the kids would be by themselves while you were gone. You've been gone almost an hour, 45 minutes.
It goes on and on and on. A lot of other drama about that relationship she had, and I thought I'd cut it off right there. But what was striking about that, Mikey, is that she's confident she had some kind of experience. Something happened here, and she's not exactly sure what.
Mm-hmm.
And then she saw something in the sky. And the first thing I think that she should have done is left, gone inside with that guy, whoever she was with. But she stayed. And because she stayed, that was a decision in her head to go and stick around and view it. And I believe spiritual realm recognizes that. That is a choice that we are all given. If you're going to stick around and see this thing, if you want to go, when the Bible says, hey, if Satan appears as a spirit and says, "I am Christ," don't go. Don't go, because that's a decision. She's decided to stay and watch it, just as people will in the last day, and they will be changed. So further than that, assuming this story is true, and I'm going to take her word for it, that everything she says is right, just because she's an experiencer, and we've heard this scenario happen over and over and over again, where when people experience these strange things, they have time dilation issues where they thought they were gone only for a second, and then they were actually gone for a long time. And so this happens over and over again. What I think is interesting about that, though, Mikey, I think that we've seen that before in Roger Morneau's book. Can I read you some passages from there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anything you
Which
want to
book
say
is this?
for it? This is The Trip into the Supernatural.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't really have much to say except that I think it's interesting. The guy, he wanted to go inside. This thing's as big as a football field. Going inside isn't going to protect you if it were to come down or do anything. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like they had that dialogue. The spirit world can see that he's telling her come in, and she's like, "No, I don't want to go in." They're saying, "Whoop, there she is." She's willingly wanting to have communication, contact, whatever. She's wanting to participate in what we're showing her. The Bible talks about that in the last days there's going to be signs, signs in the heavens, miraculous things, and that it's going to deceive many. Many people are going to be deceived by these signs and miracles, but you do have to have some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Consent. There has to be some kind of consent given, I think. And some people might think, well, I know somebody that got demon possessed and they weren't, trying to. I think there's things that we get involved in that we do not realize are giving consent.
Mm-hmm.
The things we have in our home, the music, the movies, the
Oh, good
idols, little
point.
statues, whatever they are, some kind of. I've heard stories of a lady that she was being possessed and she started like talking seductively to the pastor and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they started praying over her, and she was like flailing around. And somebody said, "It's that bracelet thing. Take the bracelet off." And he said it was just like a guitar or something that was wrapped around her arm. It looked like, and it took it off, and it stopped.
Yeah.
So I believe there are things that we're just, we're so saturated in this paganistic culture and new age things. Our kids are growing up in a world where new age and the occult and witchcraft just seems normal. You go to Walmart and there's yin yangs on the clothing and peace signs and all these things, and it just seems like normal. And I think there's a lot more power in that stuff than we give it credit for.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I could go further about that, but I want to read the story because I think it's powerful. But one thing I want to say about that is the fact that you're making a decision to listen to that piece of music, to watch that thing that and if you know it's bad, if you don't know it's bad, God winks at your ignorance. But if you know, hey, this was blessed by witches, there's some music that has been, and if this is not necessarily, this is an occult bracelet or things like that, and you go ahead and do it, that's a decision, and Satan has access to that. So I think that's a good point. Roger actually talks about getting rid of things that are in your life too. One of the things, if you don't know who Roger is, I'm going to talk directly to the audience, Mikey. If you don't know who Roger is a former occultist that turned Christian. He was originally brought into the occult system to be in a Luciferian worshiping church. These demons would manifest themselves to these worshipers, and they would be given special privileges, special powers. These were not just your bumpkins from the back street. These were lawyers, doctors, politicians, and this was happening all in Montreal, Canada. It's an amazing book, and he has a 3.5-hour video online if you haven't seen it. That's the backstory. Now, this is the excerpt from his book where he talks about being in that Luciferian cult at their church. While he's there, the satanic priest, who just looks like a normal guy, it's like your regular pastor, he says, by the way, we're going to have a special event tonight where people come and they present themselves before our gods, little g, and they get possessed. So I'm going to link these two ideas together in just a second, but before I do, I want to read that to you. Okay, Mikey, check this out. I'm sure you've probably read this before. This is fascinating, though. It says, we conversed with the priest for a few minutes, after which he left to go and check if his friend was done with the devotions. It wasn't long before he returned to tell us that I hear an echo in my ear. Pardon me while I stutter, but I think it's interesting that the satanic people were doing devotions. They were doing devotions to their gods, little g. How important is it for us as Christians to do our devotions? And they were so devoted to what they had because they were given special abilities to find things out that they wouldn't normally have. And it was all through knowing or doing their devotions and being devoted to this thing that they had. So these
Wow,
guys
that's
were going
powerful.
there. They were going to this thing. I might need to just summarize it because it's hard to read with an echo in my ear. There's a problem with the audio right now. It's one of the things I was trying to fix before the show. But they were going to this thing, and they presented 6 of them. 3 of them were selected that the spirits felt were the best. Murnau says they sat back, they shivered a little bit, and they rolled their eyes back in their head, almost as if you would see in Hollywood, except there wasn't any, screaming or anything. He said they opened their eyes again, and then he said a very authoritative voice came out. Authoritative voice. So this is, I'm summarizing page 60 and 61 from the full manuscript from Chris Lang. This isn't just the Trip into the Supernatural, which is a shorter one. But so what happened was he was, as they were talking, they would recite what would happen for the lawyer so that the lawyer had a full understanding of what happened in that period of time for his court case. And then the lawyer asked him a question, said, do you have anything extra that you want to include? And he says, in his authoritative voice, which wasn't the man that was talking, it was a spirit that had inhabited the body and was possessing him. He said, I don't have it, but in a moment I'll be back and I'll prepare another person with another spirit that was there at that time, because he asked him about a separate incident. And he came back and did the exact same thing. So after this person left, and this is the point I'm trying to make, after this person was released from his possession, having choosing to be possessed, by the way, by his own choices, he said, how long was I out? How long was I out? And so he had a time dilation issue where he wasn't sure how long he was gone. All he remembered is boom, and boom, he's back. And he said, how long was I out? So there's something to what's going on in the spiritual world where these spirits can make it as if they can cause us to do things that we don't necessarily want to do. We had Joe Jordan on the program the other day. He was talking about, I think about a relative that was fascinated with hypnotism. And I'll just reiterate this real quick. I don't know if you saw it, Mikey, but he said that she went up there on the stage, and he said she was, walking around clucking like a chicken and all this other stuff. He said when she came back down, I was sure that she was just putting on a show, but I asked her, so what do you remember? She says, I don't remember a thing. I was up there and I walked down. Time dilation issue, or I'm going to use my finger quotes, time dilation issue. So it's something we need to pay attention to as Christians, that this idea is very common in the UFO realm. What do you think, Mikey?
Yeah, it makes sense, because if you are somewhat unconscious in any kind of way, it's like that. Me and my friend, I don't recommend any of this. This is back in my bad days, but we'd make each other pass out. And you pass out and you come to and you're like, why is everybody looking at me? Like everybody literally like is looking down on you, and you're like, and then it starts coming back to you like, why is everybody looking at me? And you're like, oh wait, yeah, I remember you made me pass out. It's like it all starts coming back. Like at first you have no idea that you just even asked your friend to make you pass out. Whoa. But then it all starts coming back to you, and then you think, well, I don't even remember doing it, but everybody's looking at me and I don't remember that happening. So I can definitely understand how something would feel like a short time, but it was really a long time. And then maybe even the other way around. Sometimes in dreams and stuff, like you feel like it's been, like I had this long dream, but you look at the clock and you're napping for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there is something that goes on in the brain that just, it messes with the time aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm reminded that she said in the video that, she was gone. She didn't say that she was taken anywhere, but she says she doesn't remember anything between that period of time. We do have references, and I'm not saying this is a good spirit that she encountered. I don't believe it was. But we do have references in the Bible of God, perhaps even God using an angel to take someone, in Acts, I think it is, take someone from one place to another immediately. And so do you remember what I'm talking about, Mikey? I think was it
Yeah,
Peter?
actually, it was Was it Elijah?
Elijah? I don't remember
Or
now. I thought it was in Acts. Someone's going to correct me oh,
oh
Philip,
yeah,
there
yeah,
we
yeah.
go. I love this low latency thing.
Philip.
Thank you, Aliyah. Philip, yeah, so,
And there's also a time when a bad angel did it. Satan literally took Jesus. I looked at this just
yes.
a second reference myself or whatever, fact check myself, but it says that Satan took Jesus to a high mountain and looked over all the city. He also took him to the top of the temple and said, "Throw yourself
Fascinating.
down." Now, like Paul said, was I in the body or out of the body? I don't
Right.
know. Maybe he literally took Jesus there in his mind, maybe like an astral projection. Somebody's astral projecting, they're still laying on the bed.
Right.
But they're telling you, no, I was flying over New York City. I was seeing with Roger Morneau, he was able to see the horse race and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
really there. So
There,
whichever way it
go ahead.
was, well, yeah, let me think about this because that lady, the guy was looking for her and couldn't find her.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to have been somewhere, but maybe she just got, let's say, possessed and ran off somewhere where he didn't find her, and then she came to. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
don't
gotta
know
think
exactly
outside
what
the
happened.
box here,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I think is a fascinating point is that these angels, whether they're good or bad, have this capability of possessing our host. And just because you're possessed doesn't mean you become like a demonic voice inside you and you run around like you're a crazy person. You see in Hollywood, and it just means that you can be taken over, and you can made to do things, you can made to not do things, you can made to remember things. This is one thing that often people say when they're in ufology. I went and got regression tested at this hypnotist, and all of a sudden I could remember everything that happened on the ship. That was implanting of memories. Angels are able to do that, and I think we as Christians should know and understand that this is a possibility. But
Yeah, I've seen a documentary a while back about it. Was all of it was like multiple stories of people who had memories of their past life, and it's even like kids, like 9-year-old kid, and that's what makes it so believable is because they're like, there's no way this 9-year-old kid would be able to tell us something that happened in the 30s, and it's just recalling. That's what makes it so believable. But the Bible warns us about this type of stuff. Signs and wonders and miracles. Don't believe the signs and the miracles. Test them according to the law and to the testimony. Now, the Bible doesn't say anything about past lives. So, therefore, right away, red flag, this is not true. What's really happening? Implanting memories. And this is even getting into like military technology and stuff. I've heard things, maybe you have too, where they're interrogating people and they're able to say things a certain way that's almost like a hypnosis, where they actually convince the person that they did something they never did, or like they were testing people. They tested it on like multiple people, and it was like 80% of the people they could convince that something was real that wasn't real. Like they're showing them a superimposed photograph of them doing something in the past when they were younger or whatever. It's just fake Photoshop. And they're saying, "You remember this?" And they're like, "No, I don't remember that." "Oh, you don't remember when your mom got you that thing?" And they just start,
man.
they're adding so much detail that it's actually making the person second guess. Wait a minute. Maybe this was real. Maybe I just forgot. Maybe it's been a long time ago. And it was like 80% of the people, it was a high percentage that they were able to convince that they did something that they never even did.
So, wow. So why were they able to convince some people and some people not? I have a theory, but what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe just some people are more suggestible than others,
There was a pastor one time that was a well evangelist. I'm not going to say his name because he's frustrated a lot of people, but I believe his experience was legit. Because and I can send it to anybody who has questions about this or wants to email in and say, hey, who was that pastor and can I see that video? There was a pastor that said, I got on a plane once coming back from a third world country that had a lot of spiritualism in it. And I got on the plane, he said, and I sat beside a young man. He said, what do you do? And he said, well, what do you do? He said, the young man said, I am a spiritualist. I take care of people that come to me and they pay me some money, And then they say, I want that woman. She's a wife. And he says, I work my spirits and I make that happen. So they break up that relationship and they get with that woman. And that happens every single time. I can do it every single time. And in fact, I can take your wife away from you, he said. And the pastor said, no, you can't. You can't take my wife away from me. He said, yes, you can. Who do you think you are that you think I can't take your wife away from you? He says, I am a Christian. And I believe in the God of the Bible. He says, well, there is some people I can't do. And he said, let me ask you some questions. Do you watch soap operas? This is what he said. I'm not just making this up. I'm not just doing this because, this is part of some anti-Hollywood thing. This is what he said. This is his testimony. Do you watch movies? Do you watch pornography? And he went on through a list of different things that we know as Christians we shouldn't do. And he said, and the pastor's like, no, I don't do that, no. And he said, well, I guess I can't touch you then. That was the end of the conversation. So I think what's going on here, you can't, there is some people that, and I think I understood what you were saying correctly, some people that can be influenced and some people who can't. But there's very few people, he said, even Christians, that he can't influence. Interesting, huh?
That is, I think Christianity today has just been so watered down, lukewarm. I don't even think that the apostles or disciples would even recognize Christianity today, So, but I do think that there is kind of an awakening. People are I'm starting to hear more and more people who believe in living a righteous life, repenting, and being set apart and things like that. But it's easy when you just grow up in this to think it's normal, So I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm saying over the years, it's been small compromises each generation, until we've gotten to a place where Christians don't even look like Christians anymore.
Exactly. We're actually going to talk about that at the end here. I've got some amazing things. 5 I put on the catalog here. I put 5 things we're going to talk about at the very end, that reasons why UFOs are demonic. And some of those are what you just mentioned. We're going to go into how ufology looks a lot like Christianity. That is an interesting concept, but I'm going to leave that for the end. We got 90 people watching right now, 93. Keep watching, because you're going to miss a lot if you leave right now, because we got some amazing stuff coming up, and I want to get triple digits by the end of the night, like we were in last stream too. And so I think we're going to move on to the next topic. Are you ready, Mikey?
Let's do it.
All right, next topic. This is interesting. Health problems and radiation burns. Let's dig right into it. So this next video right here talks about these radiation burns, and let me show you how this, let me just show you real quick what's going on.
The night of the 17th of July, 1991, started just like any other.
The kids were in bed, they were asleep, and I had a friend who came to visit me. He'd actually talked about marriage at that point.
I think we already saw this one. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here.
I feel like I was in one of those time loops. Wait a minute.
Yeah, like I said, a bumpy ride tonight, folks. This is a new program, so we're going to try our best to fast forward through this and get to the next spot, because it's kind of weird how this is set up. Let's move on to the next one. All right, there we go. Let's do this. One more time, Mikey. Here we go. All right, so let's check this out.
Believe it or not, the Pentagon just released a report on UFO sightings.
It includes reports made by people claiming the sightings left them with serious health problems. The 1,500-page report was obtained by newspaper company The Sun 4 years after they requested the documents.
4 years.
The report does confirm the incidents were accurately reported, and medical data was collected. Some people reported paralysis, perceived time loss, and marks left on their bodies. It leads scientists scratching their heads.
These things just remain sort of mysteries, and you investigate it, and sometimes you just never come up with a good answer.
So that's fascinating, because this is an old report. This is something that came out last year, but I think it's interesting to bring up because it says that they're investigating health problems. And what they found out, as you read in the report, is these pilots, as they got closer to these things, they had radiation burns, basically sunburns on them. And what I think is interesting about that is that you can get a little more detail by people that have had these experiences, and you collect these understandings, put them in the box in the back of your head and go, what are the commonalities here? And one of the commonalities is they recognize that they have been in an amount of great, maybe radiation, maybe light. They often say light. In fact, let's go to Roger Murnau again, his book, Tripping Supernatural. He talks about this. I think this is one of the more telling stories of what happened here. I'm going to bring it up. But while I do that, do you have any comments?
I was trying to think what could cause physical burns like that, if there's anything in the Bible that talks about it. I know that, when God, yeah, it's hard to know, man, because like when Moses was in the presence of God, he glowed and stuff, but I don't think he felt any pain. But I wonder, yeah, I'm curious to see what you got from Roger Murnau.
Yeah.
The one who's experienced.
I have forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. Moses came down from being with the Lord, and he glowed. It makes me think of the gamma rays that glows and makes things glow. Isn't that interesting? I'm not going to go too far with that because that's probably...
Right.
But it's interesting. So this is what happened in Roger Murnau. I know you've heard this story. This is a really interesting story. So Roger says his priest, his satanic priest, the Luciferians, were reciting this to him, and this is just a short paragraph. I'm going to try to break through it while hearing my voice. I feel like I'm in an auditorium. While on my recent vacation in the USA, a chief counselor appeared in my hotel suite in Chicago with an urgent message. This is a priest talking. He said that a chief counselor, in other words, a spirit guide, appeared in Chicago with an urgent message that the person I had left in charge was about to wreck all the work of the spirits had done to bring you in touch with the society. He's talking to Roger Murnau, which I will tell you more about in the future. His brightness, talking about the spirit, his brightness was so dazzling that I could not look upon him. After giving me a few words of advice, he left, but the shock of the brightness to my eyes made it impossible for me to see correctly for about 30 minutes. For a few minutes later, I tried to dial a number and couldn't make out the numerals on the phone. Can you imagine? He couldn't make out the numerals on the phone. I had to dial the operator and ask for assistance. So this is the old days when you had to pick up the phone, you hit the thing and you try to dial the right number. But for half an hour, his eyes couldn't adjust due to the brightness. Now, I see how that doesn't quite correlate with the radiation thing, but it does correlate that these things, these bright glowing orbs, are giving off some kind of radiance. And isn't it interesting too that a lot of people point out in the Bible, I'm just making correlations that are kind of loose right now, that nobody wanted, or God didn't want us to get to touch the Ark of the Covenant for fear it might hurt us. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking of when Paul was still Saul, the persecutor. He was knocked off his horse by the presence of God, and he went blind.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, when there was two angels that went into Sodom and Gomorrah, everybody was trying to have sex with the angels, and it says they blinded them. Angels had the power to blind a whole group of men.
Wow, that's true.
So we know that they have the supernatural power that can blind people, that can change, manipulate time, take you places, to the top of a mountain, to the top of a pinnacle of the temple.
I think that's interesting. I never even put that correlation together. I didn't think, I knew they blinded the guys in Sodom, all the people that were trying to have sex with the angels, but I didn't put together that they could have just lit themselves up and blinded them for a moment and then got Lot out of there. Wow. And then also you have Saul turned Paul. Did you mention that? You probably mentioned that already.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's really fascinating. Scales fell off his eyes. I mean, like scabs. I mean, it really penetrated. This isn't just, hey, it's so bright, it's causing my retina to hurt, and I don't want to open my eyes. This is like I have been something's happened beyond brightness, and so I think
Yeah, there
it's
was
interesting.
something physical over his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So interesting, huh? Let me see if I can get this next video to play without having to push it forward. I'll have to fix this in the next thing. Let's go on and see if we can get this to play here. Check this out.
Believe it or not, the Pentagon just released a report on UFO sightings.
Well, I mean, that's what these. I mean, and Jacques Vallée talks about, like, how do you create a real cult following?
Okay, so let me pause it right here just for a second because I want to introduce what this is. And before I do that, you guys are kind of seeing behind the scenes of what we're going to do with our clips. So let's introduce this next clip. Okay, so let's talk about Jacques Vallée for a second because this is interesting. We're going to go along the same lines because in the last clip we talked about, it was talking about how is it that so many people look at this stuff and they can't picture out what it is. The news anchor said at the very end of the last clip, why is it that we can't pinpoint what this is, but we keep reporting about it? Or she said something to that effect. And Jacques Vallée, I think, actually pinpointed the topic. Just for a second, let's listen to what he says through this guy's understanding. I think it's on point for what we're going to try to say.
Not by showing yourself consistently. It's like if you have, every time you hit a lever, you know, some treat comes out for a dog or whatever. Yeah. They're going to hit the lever less than if it comes out randomly. This idea of intermittent reinforcement, if they're like sort of sporadic sightings that seem very ephemeral in nature, that's how you create kind of a rabid following. And cults actually took this up as, like, you know, that became their practice. And so I always think it's really subtle. There's one streak of my life where I experienced a bunch of paranormal stuff, like thing after thing after thing. I like saw UFOs and stuff like that.
So what is he saying here? He's answering the question, why aren't we seeing these things so much? Well, what's happening here is the occult, the satanic occult movement has figured out that this thing can be exponentially made interesting by not always giving the exact thing that is expected all the time. So when they provide these things and people are like, yeah, see, that happens, and then it doesn't happen again, but then it happens again and it doesn't happen again for a long time, suddenly you have a piqued interest and you want to see it over and over again, and people like are just obsessed with it, right? So I think that's what he's saying here. I think that's absolutely what's going on, and it's why there's a consciousness, a devil, that's behind this thing.
Yeah, like finding a four-leaf clover or shooting star or something. Like, it's like rare, and it's not like you can do anything to make it happen. Or is that what it's talking about? Like,
yeah, well, or more like, you know, these things appearing in the sky. You know, why can't a CE5 guy? What's his name? Oh, I'm sure the chat's gonna figure it out.
CE5. Joe Jordan?
Joe Jordan? No. I'm not, he's CE4. I was talking about the guy who invented the method to try to contact these things. He's a doctor, former doctor. Greer.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Tell it like it is.
Yeah,
Says
Stephen
Greer. Eric says Greer. Yeah. So Greer is always like, yeah, come out to my thing and pay me some money, and then you can go out here and you can see these things, and it doesn't always happen. So because these things, you know, it becomes an obsession if it doesn't happen all the time, like this guy said. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting point.
You gotta try harder. Is there any more from that clip about Jacques Vallée? Okay, I don't want to say anything if he might cover it.
No, nothing from Jacques Vallée. He was just talking a little bit. There's another clip that talks a little bit more about radiation. So we'll get into
So Jacques Vallée, it's interesting. I haven't really heard many people talk about him. I don't know why that is. If he's yeah. So I included him in the Disclosed documentary, but he actually wrote a book called Messengers of Deception, and he's not a Christian. I don't know if he claims to be an atheist or what, but he's not a Christian. And this was an interview from like the 90s, early 90s. And the guy was talking to him about the book, and he said, so you think that these beings could be something other than just, you know, travelers from another planet or something? And he said, yeah, I think I'll be disappointed if they are just beings from another planet. I think there's something more interesting. And he said, what do you mean? He said, I think they're interdimensional beings. And that he said, and the other guy was asking me, he said, so in your book, you said that you believe that these beings have created some kind of mythology about themselves so that humanity will believe this narrative or this mythology that they are aliens from another planet, but they're really interdimensional beings. And that's what this guy believes. Jacques Vallée believes that that's why it's called messengers of deception. He believes that these things defy physics. They just manifest, appear, reappear on and off radar. And he says he believes they're interdimensional beings that are deceiving humanity into thinking that they are aliens from another world.
Wow. So close. People get so close to the truth. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. They're going to come to us and say they're from a long ways away. But yeah, they're not.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate statement. They're interdimensional beings, He just didn't use the word angels, but...
So I had one more clip just of this guy talking in his podcast that I watched this week. He was talking about it, and he was saying that he went to Skinwalker Ranch. Everyone knows about Skinwalker Ranch is high paranormal, and the government actually purchased it through a subsidiary company for a little while. And they said everyone that comes back says the same thing, and he's going to say the same thing that everyone says. So check this out. This is rather interesting.
Well, I mean, that's what these I mean, and Jacques Vallée talks about, like, how do you create... Dude, Skinwalker Ranch was really freaky going there.
So tell me about it. So did you feel it?
It's one of these things where it was anticlimactic the day I went. Not anticlimactic in that I think the team is awesome and the experience was really cool, but anticlimactic in that I didn't see a big ass UFO fly across the grounds, or nothing insanely paranormal happened. Like a tri-field meter went off because of high gamma radiation. But so nothing insane. But afterwards, I definitely felt like a few weird things happened in my life.
Oh shoot!
And like
after you'd already left, like total hitchhiker vibe.
Yeah.
So hitchhiker vibe, we've heard that over and over again. Hitchhiker vibe is whenever people go to this thing, they don't really ever experience anything that's huge. But after they leave, and many government officials have said this too, I think Lozano alluded to this, where they go home and all of a sudden they have this type of thing that starts happening, some weird stuff starts happening, like something came back with them. And it's just practical jokes from spiritualism. But I thought that was interesting he said that. But number two, he mentioned and this is tying all back to the same topic we're on right now, the radiation. They had a little device with them, I want to call it a tricorder.
A Geiger meter.
Geiger meter, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said the thing went off for high radiation. Interesting. High radiation. Another one of those things. So everything I think is tying together. This is a typical, just like the burns on the pilots and all this other stuff. High radiation is a characteristic of these entities. Interesting.
I've heard that multiple times, that they leave markings on the ground that are radiation and kill the grass right there. That might have something to do with the whole crop circle thing. Some of those are absolutely man-made and have been admitted to being man-made, but I don't doubt that these beings could make those designs. And I don't want to go too conspiracy or whatever theory, but
it's late.
Yeah,
we're allowed to.
Yeah. All right, so the government, guys. I do believe that there is secret military technology that's far beyond what we understand. I think that's pretty much common knowledge, and that they do reverse engineer, and they've tried to make UFOs and have made UFOs. There's photographs of it from the U.S. and the Nazis and all that. But even if there was an agenda to get people to believe in aliens, how easy would it be just to fly a drone over some farmer's field? And literally you can program drones to fly in any direction and use a laser to just burn markings in the ground. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen a whole drone show where each drone has a colored light, and they're literally making animations in the sky. Like, that's how easy they are to program. So how easy would it be just to burn some patterns in a farmer's field, and now all of a sudden, this is proof aliens are real? not really.
Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna get into the crop circles and everything. I actually have a request. Many people asking, "Hey, can you cover this? This is an interesting topic." I don't even know much about it, but you're exactly right. In the drone shows and all kinds of other things, I mean, it should be easy almost now to mimic something that happens in the sky. Maybe they don't even have to use their special abilities, but I think we're going to see some pretty incredible things in the near future, this decade, I believe. But
Oh yeah, me too. This year, 2023.
yeah, absolute. So what I think is interesting is that not just strange people have seen this stuff. We have even Jimmy Carter has seen this stuff. Have you heard about this? I didn't even know this. This was interesting to me.
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of UFO documentaries in my day, and they always show Jimmy Carter, who was one of the first presidents to admit that he's like, I seen something out there. I remember that.
I forgot my intro, so I'm going to cut this into a clip here, so I'm going to jump into it before I do that. So let's talk about Jimmy Carter. This is fascinating to me because Jimmy Carter has also seen things. It's not just strange people that have seen UFOs. This is a former president. He actually submitted a report before he became president and talked about it and actually signed it and everything. We're going to watch two clips from it. One is going to be Jimmy Carter signing dramatized, and this next one is actually going to be him talking about it personally. It's really interesting, so check this out.
Dude, Skinwalker Ranch was really freaky.
October 1969. A young politician is leaving a fundraising event in Georgia when he spots a large, eerie object glowing in the evening sky.
When he looks up in the sky and he sees an object, it's an object that is big. It's bigger than the moon. And he thinks to himself, that's the darndest thing I ever saw.
There is no reasonable explanation for the strange object he is seeing in the sky. It truly is something he can't identify.
It's flashing, it's moving nearer to him and moving further away. He's sure he's seen a UFO.
The witness is so disturbed by what he's seen, he files a report with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, and the International UFO Bureau.
These two agencies at the time were professional investigators, made up of scientists and astronomers, and this is the very type of object that they would have investigated.
The report sounds like many other UFO sightings, but it's not. What makes this report stand out is the identity of the witness.
You can still see the document of the sightings online, and the witness has signed his name, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, the guy who saw and reported the UFO was the future president of the United States, Jimmy Carter.
NASA's unexplained.
Okay, so this is actually what he said afterward.
Well, I was gathered in a schoolyard with about 20 other men, and we saw a bright light appear in the distant western skies, and it got closer and closer, and when it was just above the treetops, it changed color, and then it stayed there for a while, and then it disappeared into the distance. And none of us could ever imagine what it was, and I still don't know what it was.
In 76, he said you'd try and release all information to the public and to scientists about other UFO sightings.
Yes.
Do you think you achieved that?
I'm not sure, but we did release a lot of the information, but I don't know how much was not released.
So it's fascinating to me that he is actually saying that he did see something, and it's not a cylindrical disc like everyone thinks when they say UFO. Because when people see these things, and this was a revelation to me, Mikey, when I first saw this, I was like, okay, let's dig into UFOs. But when I realized, hey, these things has the same characteristics of fallen angels and regular angels, normal angels, the unfallen in the Bible. Okay, this is research I can get behind. This is something that's really interesting, and I'm going to dive deep into because they're not reporting these cylindrical discs. He said there was a light in the sky. It was changing colors. This is not your typical strange fiction novel, is it?
Right. Yeah. You hardly ever hear people say, "I saw nuts and bolts. It was a metallic disc." And usually when people do see a metallic disc that looks solid or whatever, they say it didn't have nuts and bolts. There's no seams at all. That's what makes it seem so, sci-fi or futuristic or whatever. But what I think is interesting is the year that this happened. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
1969.
Oh, 69.
Oh, 1969, the year of the moon landing hoax, or the moon landing. Sorry, but I think if there was an agenda to push something, it would be okay. We're gonna expose the future president to a UFO the same year that we go to the moon. We're just gonna get everybody, focused on space and all this stuff because whether they know it or not, Satan knows what his final deception is going to be. I don't think that every military person or whatever is in on it. I don't think they're part of the deceivers. I think that they are being deceived themselves. Not all of them. I don't know. I think there's a. What do you think?
No, I totally. Actually, you know what? In this next clip, I think we should jump into that. This is like behind the scenes stuff now. Let's talk about the differences. Now, I don't want to get into the moon and stuff too far, but I do want to reveal our beliefs behind it so people aren't like, what are they talking about?
Yeah,
so,
let's do it.
Let me jump into the next clip here, and this is actually we're actually gonna get deep into that because we're gonna talk about Buzz Aldrin and being on the moon as well. So let's do that. Here we go. Let me get this prepared here. There we go. Okay, that guy. Cool. Okay, let's talk about Buzz Aldrin, and let's talk about some moon stuff. You ready? We're going to get deep in some strange stuff, but I want you to watch this clip because this is a well-known clip of Buzz. There's 2 clips here. Check this out.
3, 2, 1, 0. 60 seconds.
I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us. So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.
While Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, they're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us.
Is he revealing the truth or not? Let's see a little evidence behind this real quick.
And there's the UFO conspiracy that Neil Armstrong saw like UFOs on the moon or whatever, and he came back and he was super scared. And the one possible piece of corroborating evidence to that, and I'm not proposing that, I don't necessarily think that that's true, but the one possibly kind of funny piece of additional evidence would be that the second expedition Neil Armstrong did was in 1975, and it was to a cave in Ecuador at the edge of the Amazon, and it was called the Teos Cave, and it was supposed to contain ancient alien metallic artifacts. And so clearly Neil Armstrong believed enough in the possibility of that thing to like go into the Amazon and risk his life and try to look for it, and a BBC documentary crew followed him in there. And so I met somebody who comes from a long line of conquistadors.
Oh, nice.
His name's Luis Felipe San Salvador, and he has maps to the Teos Cave. And so I would love to go and try to find that, because Neil Armstrong was not successful.
He was not successful finding that stuff, but it was proposed that he was going to look for alien stuff. So that was Neil Armstrong, right? The clip that we saw in the beginning was Buzz Aldrin. I want to say Buzz Lightyear every single time. Buzz Aldrin.
Got his name from.
Yeah, and so they both support this idea, apparently, that something was seen. Now, we don't hold the same opinion about the moon.
Oh, it's only a matter of time before we will, Brad. You just got to look at the evidence. Everybody needs to look at the evidence.
I think space is real. Mikey's not so sure, so we're just gonna leave
Even
it at
before
that.
even before that though, I was convinced that the moon landing was a hoax, like fresh out of high school. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
this is really weird. Yeah, I saw a documentary that came on Fox. I promise you, this really happened. Like, I've tried to look it up because, Fox seemed like I remember seeing the alien autopsy tonight on Fox or whatever.
Right.
Like, I was the guy that watched anything alien related, space related, anything. Like, I was obsessed with it. And it seemed like it always came on Fox or FX or something like that. And I remember there was like, tonight we're going to look at evidence that maybe the moon landing was a hoax. And they, on national television, which I think is completely controlled media, and I don't think that the truth really gets out much on the media, but for some reason, this got aired once, and it was enough for me to start questioning
All right.
shadows
I'll have
and
to see
things
it.
like that.
I want to see that one.
Well,
You'll send
yeah,
it
I
to
don't
me.
even know where that is, but definitely watch A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. That's the documentary you need to see.
All right. I went to.
And he believes in space.
I do believe in space. I went to Kennedy Space Center just recently, and there was 4,000 people working on getting this thing into space. I just don't think I think that's a hard thing to keep 4,000 people to keep quiet about something. So, I don't know.
Are there 4,000 professors that teach evolution and Big Bang Theory?
They're all deceived. They all think that thing is real. Anyway, we're totally off.
I saw that rocket. I saw that rocket go out into the ocean, bro.
It went up. Yeah. Okay. So legit. There is the understanding that when you send a rocket up into space, it does curve, and it goes. And this is from my understanding of things. I believe there is space. It does curve, and there is a huge pull. I mean, you don't get out of the Earth's gravity for a long time. So even if you were to get up into space, you wouldn't be weightless unless you would be sailing around the Earth. But if we're gonna get way in the weeds, Mikey.
I think straight is always the best way to go. I don't go, to Georgia to go to or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't.
Well, they're
Yeah,
putting
I've heard the whole
satellites up
thing.
there,
Like,
though.
they need to swing enough. They need to get enough speed by going around the Earth before they pop into the atmosphere.
They're putting satellites up there. So if you go up there, you want to send them in on a trajectory. And when you know how when you point a satellite dish, you point it at the horizon because that's where the equator is. All the satellites are set around the equator in order to get direct TV or whatever. And so you send it over in that direction. So if you're over here, you got to send the rocket over a little bit in order to get. I'm not in my camera, in my. Ooh, there we go. That's better. You got to send it over there a little bit. You can't go straight up because that's not where the satellites are going to eject from. Anyway, that's my understanding. But
I saw the one that they sent to the moon though, and it's like, I love the pictures. The pictures are amazing because you see the moon up here. Let's see. You see the moon up here, and you see the rocket going like down here. I can't remember what the name of that one is. The one they just sent back to the moon recently.
So we're gonna have a call
We gotta
in.
do some stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna have a call in at the end, and I want someone to call in. We're gonna discuss this further. If you want to discuss this further, I want to hear your opinion, and maybe you want to ask us questions about it, or maybe you want to try to debunk me or Mikey. We're always very interested in that. So there is a rotating banner that has the number on it. Don't call yet because I can't take your call yet. But at the end, when we say we're gonna have little calls, you can call in and chat with us a little bit. Anyway, let's move on. I think it's interesting. So that was Buzz. Let's go on to the meat of the program. This is fascinating stuff. This is last part of the program we wanted to talk about. This is 5 reasons UFOs are demonic. This is really, really interesting because I think these are the things that we've covered a little bit in the past, but this is a clip you really want to send to your friends to say that believe in this stuff. This is obvious to me. So let's jump right into it. Mike, you ready? Let's see here, that button. I'm gonna get better at this. So let's jump right into this. 5 reasons why UFOs and aliens, all this stuff, is a demonic experience. Let's find out exactly why this is. And I'm gonna play some clips here. real quick that's going to prove it, and we're going to talk about each one.
There's the UFO conspiracy that Neil Armstrong saw like UFO.
The Defense Intelligence Agency has just released that program's 2010 report on UFOs, and among other things, the document tells us that the government can prove that UFO sightings have caused radiation burns, paralysis, and brain damage. The report also says that some people who saw UFOs experienced, quote, perceived time suspension. They also saw ghosts and other spirits. In all, that report lists 42 cases of adverse effects from medical files and another 300 adverse effects from unpublished cases, whatever that means.
Okay, so what did he say there? He said UFOs are actually tied and have been seen around paranormal activity. That right there tells me, I mean, everyone knows paranormal activity, ghosts, spirits, all this stuff that goes bump in the night that's just trying to irritate you. That's not of God. That's not an angel that's like, hey, I'm going to try to do what is righteous and good to them. This is something that is menacing. And so that's one proof that these things are actually not good things. And so UFOs are seen around paranormal activity. What do you think?
Did he say brain damage?
Yeah.
It said burns, brain damage. Oh, I see it right there on the thing. Brain damage, burns, and ghosts. I mean, what in the world? Like, what? I'm just trying to think of this logically. If we are here on Earth and we're looking up at the sky, and on that little star that I can point at, there's aliens up there, and they can travel to here, physical beings, and they have an encounter with us, but now I'm seeing ghosts as well. Like, what? It doesn't even like. Where does the connection happen in the main narrative, the narrative we're supposed to believe?
The ghosts are, well, everyone knows ghosts are evil, or some people think ghosts are like former dead relatives that have come back.
Right. There's a lot of people that would be offended if you said ghost was evil.
Oh man, see.
But what is the connection between I'm seeing a visitor from outer space and now I'm seeing ghosts?
I don't know. That's a good question. And so,
from their point of view,
why did they see that? Because I mean, that's what Tucker Carlson said. They're seeing UFOs and now they're seeing ghosts. All this stuff, and this has been said over and over again. I've heard this from many stories that these two things go hand in hand. When they see UFOs, they also see paranormal events, ghosts, things flying around the room, voices, raps on the doors. So this.
And when I hear brain damage, what kind of brain damage would come from it? I mean, is this psychosis? Is this like maybe like Legion? You know, the guy who's cutting himself and hanging out by the tombs and stuff.
I think it's more related to radiation. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, like all this radioactive, you get sunburns, you have a high dose of radiation, gamma rays on your body, and it's going to deeply affect you. That's what I think. I don't know. But clearly
we're proving that these are 5 proofs that this is demonic.
Yeah, so that's one of them. We're going to go on the next one. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, so check this out. So this next one is going to talk about, I'm going to cut this piece out. This is fluff as I try to find my notes here. Okay, so this next one is talking about how dead people are seen around these things. And how do we know that dead people are proof that this is demonic? Now watch this. Check this out.
The Defense Intelligence Agency has just released that program's 2010.
These so-called alien beings are actually manifesting at times as dead relatives during the abduction experience to challenge a person's belief system as Christian theology in the idea that dead relatives can be talked to or even spoken to, or that they're even around to be able to hear what we have to say.
So that was a MUFON director, Joe Jordan, if you haven't seen him before. He analyzes these reports, understands what's going on, and has investigators that go out and investigate these things. He says they've seen over and over and over again that these things can be stopped in the name, with Jesus' name, not Krishna, not Buddha, Jesus' name. And not only that, but also that he has seen where people have had experiences where their dead relatives try to perform a sexual union, like you just said. That's not going to happen. You know, your dead relative's not going to come back to you and do that, especially if they're not your significant other that's died. And so, what's going on here? This has to be a demonic experience.
Yeah, the Bible has clear warning against necromancy, talking to the dead. Why? Because you're not talking to the dead. You're talking to demons impersonating the dead. That's why they're called familiar spirits, because they look familiar to you. Oh no, that's not a demon. That's my grandma. She looks familiar. That's because these spirits can literally take on the shape. They're shapeshifters. I mean, Satan shapeshifted as a serpent. The Bible says, do not, test every spirit. He transforms himself as an angel of light. Don't even trust, we entertain angels unaware. Why is it unaware? Because they don't look like an angel. They look like something else, right?
Right.
And so Satan can take the shape of, I don't know, almost anything probably. But the thing about coming as dead relatives makes me think of some movies I've actually seen, and I think there's a lot of weird hidden truths in movies and things like that, but one of them was a movie called Starman, and at the beginning of the movie, you see a woman crying, and she's watching an old film of her dead husband, and then you see this alien thing come down into her house. She's passed out or whatever. I think she was drinking because she was sad. Passed out, and the alien goes through the scrapbook and finds a lock of his hair. It shows it zoomed down into the DNA, and on the floor he's literally like an infant, and then in a matter of minutes he's growing into her husband, and she wakes up and sees her dead husband in the house. And at first she's freaked out, but then she finds out. He talks to her and says, I'm an alien. I came in the form of your husband so I wouldn't freak you out, but I need to get back to my mother's ship or whatever.
So do you think demons have grown into humans? Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe that part is the the sci-fi part, but the fact that they appear as someone that a dead loved one, and then in the movie Contact, same thing, right? Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, the end of it.
Yes, they come to you and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're the aliens, but we came to you as your father because we thought it would be easier for you. And she recognized that it wasn't her father. That's interesting. Little bit of tidbits here and there. Fascinating. All right, you ready for the next one? Number 3.
Let's do it.
All right, number 3. That's not the right button.
These so-called alien beings are actually manifesting it.
When people start to understand more about the UFO phenomenon, and when they follow what Secret Machines is going to teach them, and mind you, as we'll talk about this in a little bit, it's not all coming from me, it's coming from other people of the highest places. The term the occult in that whole world is much more a part of the UFO phenomenon than that's part of what makes it more complex than just little green men and flying saucers and tinfoil hats. There's a very, very strong link between what people think demons are from the Bible and other religions and the UFO phenomenon. And what you have is something that doesn't like man, period, and something that feels either jealous of or has some kind of plan for what man is to be.
If there wasn't...
When people start to understand...
There we go. If there wasn't a better clip, I think this is
I know.
the one.
I was like, dude, Tom DeLonge just gave us straight gold there. He literally describes what the Bible says. I mean, Lucifer was jealous of man, and you've created these beings and all that. I'm going to go and corrupt them. And he said these things, hate man. That's Satan and all his demons. They hate mankind. They're coming to seek and kill and destroy, right?
Right. Yeah. And
he
think...
said they relate to what people call demons in the Bible and in other religions. I've actually seen more than one clip of Islam. Islamic people say, I was describing what a jinn was. I was looking up clips about a genie being a jinn, and they said jinn is an angel or what people see as ghosts or aliens, yeah, we know that as jinn. So he's saying when you see a ghost or alien, we know that as an angel, whether that be fallen or unfallen or what.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Yeah, and I think perhaps this is why if he was being used by the spiritual realm, demons specifically, to forward a message, which I think he was at one time, has been cut off. And I think primarily because he's releasing information he shouldn't. Like this. I mean, this is perfect example of showing that, yeah, this thing's a demonic entity. And these things want to be seen as good, as the helpers. And can you imagine if this clip gets circulated around? Like, everyone should share this video. This is fantastic. This is exactly what the devil doesn't want. This is what we should do.
I do think he's giving the narrative as, oh, what those Christians think are demonic. No, it's aliens, you know. And I remember hearing more of the clip that he said, you know, because he would say, you know, I can say certain things and I can't say other things, and they want me to say certain things. And he said that the military knows that there's a war of good and bad aliens going on. He said they know it. He said they've been trying to keep us distracted with religion and stuff, so we won't be focused on what's going on up there because they're trying to, you know, referee this thing or whatever.
Fascinating.
There was another point I was going to say. Oh, and earlier in that clip, I remember I saw it on the intro. I don't know if he said it here or not, but he said, what I'm teaching people with my, what's the book called? The Machines or whatever?
Oh, yeah, Secret Machines.
Secret Machines. He literally says what I'm teaching people with these books. And also, you can look at some of his Angels and Airwaves videos, and he's an open Freemason. Dude wears the pins, his like drum kit has it on it, or a speaker or something. Yep. Like, he openly flashes that, that Freemason logo. Do with that what you want.
Yeah, I noticed that. You pointed that out to me. I was shocked. It's all over his music videos, Angels and Airwaves, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And we know that the Freemasons are, at least at the very top, they are not worshiping the good thing, but it's all a worship service. So you got to.
And just that name, Angels and Airwaves, he's the prince and the power of the air. That's Satan.
Wow.
Angel. Oh, man, dude.
This is the next clip, the lost occult of NASA history. This is interesting because Lou Elizondo, who we know is a part of this this whole exposure thing, knows a lot. He's been in the military. He's been in the Pentagon, and one of the things, this is the fourth reveal here, that he says is NASA is actually something that you should kind of look into. This is interesting. Watch this. Found it.
And more about the UFO phenomenon, and when they follow what Secret Machines is going to teach them.
There's a lot of occult history in NASA. Some of the nomenclature that was used for certain missions and the choosing of, you know, Launchpad 33 and some other things were very deliberate. It wasn't, you know, happenstance.
You want to know something really trippy about Jack Parsons? So Jack Parsons was in the OTO, you know, this crazy cult. You know, yeah, this was with Aleister Crowley and all that, and they would do past life regressions, but his past life regression was Simon the Sorcerer.
So, do you know who that guy is they're talking about?
Who?
Jack Parsons?
Aleister Crowley? No, I've heard the name before.
I didn't know. I had to look it up. He's a famous rocket scientist for NASA. He created some of the first rockets. And I think it's interesting that, and I don't know how too far to go with this, because, you know, I was just down there, and honestly, everything in Kennedy Space Center right now, I mean, there's like Bible verses, and they're quoting scripture. I think that's really interesting to have a place right beside Disney. I'm not going to go too far on that, but that is like, I've seen. They don't actually put Bible verses on any of the plaques or anything, but you can read stuff, and it's like, oh, they're quoting scripture, without actually telling it's from the Bible. And a lot of the people that have died, they have, you know, memorials to them, and things have little inklings here and there of Christianity in them. But then again, maybe that's the perfect disguise. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. What's the first thing you get when you join the Freemasons? They give you a Bible. I actually found one at a used bookstore with the Freemason logo right on the front. It's a Bible. And it's got some interesting commentary in the front. There's like a couple 20 pages or something of like almost like a dictionary or something. Like it's got different words and like their definition for it. There's some interesting things in there. But
Fascinating.
yeah, they give you a Bible. The Vatican uses the Bible.
Wow. Yeah. So there's 3 other things that I think prove that this is a demonic religion. We're going to go into those things, but I also want to open up the phone lines because we're coming close to the end of the hour. We got about 10 minutes left. Usually we go until about 10 minutes from now. It's different for everybody. Every time is different in the world. We are international right now. And by the way, go ahead and show me where you are again in the chat because I haven't been watching. I'd be curious to see where you are. What's your location? If you didn't before, or if you did, do it again. I'm very curious.
I did want to bring up that point about the occult. They have a different understanding of the occult because Tom DeLonge was like, oh yeah, the occult, you know, it's very involved in the whole alien thing. And then Lou was saying the same thing. Oh, it's very occultic. They got that 33. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't think that's strange?
Absolute.
Or do they think the occult is just an innocent thing or what?
Dude, this is crazy. Indiana, Sydney, Sweden? Sweden, that's cool. I'm actually Swedish, half Swedish. I don't know much about it though, unfortunately. Sydney, Australia, Alberta, fantastic. Ohio, North Carolina, Quebec. All right, Quebec. I have family in Quebec. Tennessee. Hey, Jonathan, you're right here with us. Cool. Wow, so cool to see everyone here. That's cool. We have 121 watching right now. That's the most we've ever had. We had 110, I think, last week. So that's really cool. Stick around. We got 3 more, and we're going to probably do phones if someone wants to call the phone line. If you can't get through, and there's a problem, because I always say I can always mess that up, go ahead and tell me in the chat. Let me know if you can't get through, and we'll be watching that to make sure that you're getting. We got 3 more beliefs and understandings of ufology that prove it is absolutely a demonic religion. And I say religion because it's a belief system. It's the belief system that's coming to replace all belief systems here pretty soon. And that's the drum that nobody, Mikey, nobody but us, I feel, is actually drumming this drum. I mean, people are drumming the drum about ecumenicalism. People are drumming the drum about the Catholic Church,
Roman
Protestantism.
Catholicism,
Yeah. You got all these things that we know are going to be big deal in the last days, but nobody's talking about this one thing. Nobody's talking about how spiritualism is coming to try to completely create a different idea. And that's the spiritualism that's happening right now. This is part of the New Age movement, and we've proven that. That's actually one of the good points I should bring out here. Actually, it is the last point on this list. But so let's just talk about that right now. Again, if you want to call in, you see the number at the bottom. But the last belief, sorry, I cut you off, Mikey. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, just look at all the propaganda that promotes the occult and New Age. You cannot, I mean, I don't even see TV, but on YouTube and stuff, I'll see commercials pop up and it's like State Farm and they're sitting there doing the lotus pose and meditating. Or it's like, oh, are you hungry? And it's somebody doing some yoga and trying to eat a candy bar. Like, why do they push so hard? Yoga, New Age meditation, the occult, witchcraft. It's like always Harry Potter and Monster High, and it's just constantly pushing the occult and the New Age down your throat. And spiritualism, like you said, every Disney movie, they talk to the dead.
Yeah.
The Lion King, Simba talks to his dead dad in the sky. Paranormal, I mean, there's so much, so many cartoons where they just ancestor worship, Mulan, there's always the dead relatives. Dude, every movie,
Listen
every
to your
cartoon.
heart, you will understand. Yep.
Yeah. Crazy, man. So I believe that New Age is going to be the one world religion, and The Catholic Church ties into it because the Catholic means universal. They have these big meetings where all the religious leaders of the world come and meet up with the Pope and say we all have the same God and all this. That's what the Bible talks about when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. Wow. And guess who's going to look like the unpeaceful haters?
Yeah.
True Christians who will not compromise what the Word of God says, that there's one true God, that the only way is Jesus. He's the way, not a way. He's the way, the truth, and the life. If you stand on that and you're unwavering and you keep the commandments of God, like Revelation says that Satan's going to come down and make war against those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith and testimony of Jesus Christ, you are going to be looked at as a hater who doesn't believe in peace, who doesn't want unity in the world, and you're going to be persecuted.
That's a really good point, Mikey, because I'm not just drumming off that because I think it's something we should talk about. It's something we should talk about. But I found by watching some of these religions that are worshiping UFOs is that the people, the messages they get are you are to love and not hurt anybody, but you are to be free from all laws. That's exactly the opposite what the Bible says. The Bible says we are to hold to close to love, and love is defined in the Bible by the Ten Commandments. Love your neighbor, love your God, which is the two pinnacle tablets that represent the first four being love your God, the last six being love your neighbor. And so I think that's probably a good point. Number 8, let's put that in here as how you can tell that the ufology is absolutely a demonic religion. It doesn't follow. It wants you to believe that there are no more rules, just like what Disney teaches. Just throwing that in there.
Man. Not just Disney too. It's like almost every movie.
Yeah, every single movie. Looks like for some reason I'm getting calls, but they're going straight to voicemail. It looks like that's not good. I've gotten 3 calls just now from a 26 number ending in 26. Why don't you go ahead and try to call back? I'm not exactly sure why it's going straight to voicemail. Let me check if I have Do Not Disturb put on, and we'll try that again. Or maybe I'll just try calling you back. Let's call back. Maybe it's a scam. This will be interesting.
Maybe it's
You've reached the voicemail.
No, went to voicemail. So if you're trying to call, go ahead and try to... no, see, it's not working. It's going straight to voicemail. Well, I wish... can you... the next belief... Let's talk about this next belief. I'm going to have you... maybe you can talk a little bit about Alice... No, we actually already talked about Alice Bailey. Do you know much about the Nephilim? Because this is a heavy topic that we always talk about. And it's interesting to me that ufology believes that the Nephilim are these God/humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting too because there's a lot of Christianity that believes that too. And so how do you know it's a false religion? I see a lot of Christianity changing and going to attach to this religion because it believes already what they believe. And so these tickling ears.
That's true. I'll say that I completely bought into that idea in 2012 when I first heard about it through Chuck Missler, if anybody knows about him. He was I learned a lot from that guy. He's since passed, but he has somebody recommended me listen to Learn the Bible in 24 Hours, and it was literally 24 presentations that were an hour long, and it took you from Genesis to Revelation. You know, you're not going to get everything, of course, but he really, I mean, it's really good. He really makes the Bible seem real through physics and all these things. You know, explains like why God would have to come as a man to be able to reach us because we're 3-dimensional beings, and he had to enter on a level that we can understand and things like that. But he was the first one I heard talk about that in Genesis. It talks about the sons of man saw the daughters of men, and
All right.
Can I say the call?
Yeah, I got a call, but just a second. I want you to finish your slot, and we'll take the call. And then you can call back, whoever you are.
So yeah, the sons of man, the sons of God saw the daughters of man, that they were beautiful, and went into them and bare children, and they were men of old and renowned and all these things. And then it says there were giants in the earth in those days and also afterwards. And so if you look at that as just like this is one paragraph, one subject, which the Bible, written in Hebrew and Greek, there's no punctuation. There's a lot of things that, you know, are just strung together. But I completely believed. Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is really weird, sounds really crazy, but it's right here in the Bible, and I believe what the Bible says. And it appears to be saying that angels mated with women and created these demonic hybrids, and that's why God sent the flood to get rid of these things. But it says that they were here also afterwards, after the flood. So I thought, well, I know they didn't survive the flood, but maybe it happened again. But when I really looked into what the sons of God are, when you look at, if you do a word search, if you have a Bible app, you can type in quotation marks sons of God, and it'll search every time the Bible says sons of God, or son of God. That's a believer. He gives us, he says, if you believe, then you have the right to become the sons of God. So the sons of God are just believers in God, Christians. And anytime you see like the sons of man in the Bible, it's always referring to the lost, those who don't have God. And in this case, it says the daughters of men, because it's referring to pagan women, heathen women. And so Jesus talked about us not being unequally yoked. Do not be unequally yoked. But in the days of Noah, people were being unequally yoked. There was sons of God, Christian people, who were marrying heathen, pagan women, because we see that in the Bible. We saw that Satan always tried to trip up the Israelites with, send the women over there to have a party, and the Israelites will be intrigued, and they'll go over there, and it worked.
Yeah.
This is the same thing that happened in the days of Noah. We don't see that the sons of God ever refers to angels.
Right, 100%.
Now, we see some things we see some things that look like it could, like when it says the sons of God rejoiced when they saw God create the worlds and things like that. But I believe that God created other beings before earth and humans and all that. There was, of course, the angels existed before the creation of earth, and which is, that's the topic we're talking about, is were these angels or not.
Right.
But more than not, you're seeing that the sons of God refer to believers, not angels. And these might not even be referring to angels. Maybe the sons of God who rejoiced when they saw creation were other beings that were created by God,
Sons of God in the Bible, I always thought the sons of God in the Bible was referring to the ones who were going after God's way, and the daughters of men were the ones going after men's way. So the women weren't exactly focused on the godly things, and then when they came together, they weren't exactly right. In fact, I think we're going to do a full episode on this. This is actually a really good study, and it makes it confuses a lot of people. So I think we should spend a full time on that. But if that was you that was calling in, call back, and we're going to take your call right now. And anybody else that wants to. Say again?
I'll say one more point about that, because I really believed it was like really it sounded so solid that this was the truth, that angels mated with women and all that, until I started studying the Bible. Nobody taught me this. Nobody said this idea is wrong. I had a hunger. I want to know the truth. I'm like, I'm not going to believe what this denomination says or this or that. I just want to get it from the Bible. And when I saw they asked Jesus, they were trying to trip him up all the time. And they said, all right, this woman, she was married to this guy. He died. She married his brother. This happened 7 times. In the resurrection, whose wife will she be? And Jesus said, in the resurrection, there will not be marriage. There won't, because they'll become like the angels. He said, in the resurrection, they'll become like the angels, and they will not be given into marriage. Now, logically, I'm thinking, if God created angelic beings to be, for one, they're all male that I know of, or at least androgynous or whatever you want to call it. We never see a female angel in the Bible ever.
Right.
Now, if God created angels that were meant to be eternal, immortal, and all male, why do they have sperm-producing testes? I don't believe they do.
Right.
And they don't give into marriage, so therefore they don't have sex either. So that's just we're going to do a whole topic.
It can be a long show. In fact, I think it would be very interesting to continue that conversation. Let's go ahead and take that caller now that's coming in. I wish I had a call queue so I can just accept it and bring him on the air, but he has to call back in order for me to get him on because I don't have a call queue. Here he is. All right, first time caller. You're on the air. How are you? Are you there? Well,
Yeah, hi, Brad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm getting a bit of an echo here, but I just wanted to comment about what Mikey was talking about the NASA and the moon landings, and it seems to be something that is obviously really contentious, and people have a way of looking at it, and a common argument that I hear is that, oh, you know, thousands of people work at NASA or working on these programs, and that, you know, you couldn't convince all of them to keep quiet, or, you know, so it had to have been real. The thing that I like to keep in mind is that that's not really necessary. I mean, if you think about the moon landings themselves, you know, people saw stuff coming from the government through the news. It was grainy video. The people at Mission Control, they were looking at a computer screen that was just getting data fed to them through their console. So really, I mean, this is all about deception in my mind. And you know, the idea of spending millions of dollars to fake anything in space, that's nothing to Satan. He's trying to get souls. So, you know, we think of all the wars that have been waged, all the things that human institutions do. It's all building towards this great deception. So I'm not saying you know, this specific thing was faked or it wasn't, but keeping open the possibility and just recognizing that everything's part of the great deception, I think, is important.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I'm open to keeping up open deception. In fact, I'd go as far as to say this, without getting more and more deep into it. I don't want to do on this show, especially in the last, well, negative 7 minutes that we have. I do want to say that I think what's interesting is that we were in a big race to get to this moon against another country. And it could very well be possible that if we did get to the moon, and I believe we did at one point, that the first time that it appeared on TV, it might have not been true. But that's as far as I want to go because I haven't researched it enough and I haven't looked into it. But I'm willing to accept the idea that, hey, nothing is absolute, especially if I didn't see it. But I also don't want to go too deep into that too, because if we say that I'm not going to believe it unless I see it, then we're no better than any ufologist that won't believe in a religion, but they will believe it if they see it happen to them. And so all I know is what the Bible tells me. And if the moon landing's not in there, hey, I'm gonna believe that for now. And we're gonna know a lot of stuff when we get to the books of heaven, the big deck where we can view exactly what happened. So I'm feeling you with that echo. I'm hearing the same thing. I've been doing in all episodes. Like I said, it's going to be a bumpy ride because I'm hearing myself constantly, and I'm sure you are too. In fact, Mikey, do you hear an echo when he talks?
No, I don't hear an echo from
Good.
You or him.
Probably it's not in the recording then. That's a relief. But I appreciate your call. Do you have any other comments?
No, that was it.
Very good.
Thanks. God bless.
God bless you, and thanks for calling.
Yeah, I appreciate that, balanced approach. He said, you don't have to believe one way or another, but it is possible that it's fake. Because, yeah, thousands of people work at NASA, but how many are the janitor? How many are just, looking at printed out, data and things like that? It's so compartmentalized really the only ones that would have to be in on the secret would be those Freemasons that got inside the rocket ship. And that's not a conspiracy theory. You can literally look at pictures of the astronauts, and they are wearing their Freemason ring. Like, that's no joke. And they proudly declare that they're Freemasons and all that.
Conspiracies aside, I think it's fascinating to look into. But me and Mikey have both decided on this is that we don't want to bog down this topic with just this conversation. And you agree too, Mikey, right? Because this is such an important topic that we need to talk about. The possibility, not just the possibility, the absolute ability that these things are going to come back and they're going to present themselves as gods. And that's going to happen. And we don't want to make our theories interfere with what we know is absolutely going to happen. And so when you're presenting this stuff to your pastors, if you are someone that does believe in different things, don't go into those first. Let's present what the Bible says and what we absolutely know is true, and then we will be, I think, represented among kings, and God will put us in the courts of high-ranking people, because we're testimony of His goodness. I don't know. What
Whether
do
you
think,
believe the moon landing is real or fake, or the Earth is a globe or flat, that's the thing that we agree on is that this alien thing is a deception from Satan, and those things can divide, and there's no need in it. It's just going to put up an unnecessary wall.
Right.
The thing that we really want to do on this channel is point out that these alien things are deceiving the world into us believing that they're visitors from another world when they're not.
Right. 100%. 100%. Dude, I think that's a good place to end. Actually, I had one more that I was going to talk about on here, and I'm just going to mention it. I don't want to go too long on it, though, but we got to talk about this 1,000-year reign thing, because it talks about a lot of Christians believe that there's going to be a 1,000-year millennium here on Earth. The Bible does not support that, and ufology picks that up and says that there's going to be an age of Aquarius, or I forget what it is, but there's some kind of age where everything is perfect, and it sounds exactly like what mainstream Christianity, what most Christianity believes, is this where God comes and reigns on Earth. It doesn't reign on Earth. He's coming. He's taking His people back to heaven. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be here on Earth. Don't go somewhere and say, hey, yeah, Jesus is here. He's right over there. And now He wants to start the full 1,000 years on Earth. That's the deception that's coming, folks. Anyway.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of people that are setting themselves up to believe the Antichrist or the false Messiah, because they're going to say, look, He's here. He's setting up His kingdom. When they say peace and safety, remember what the Bible says, sudden destruction. Jesus said, when they say I'm in the desert, don't go. When they say I'm in the secret chambers, don't go. Why? Because He's not going to touch the ground for 1,000 years. When He comes, like lightning flashes from the east to the west, and this is after the tribulation, this isn't pre-tribulation, the Bible doesn't support that. Job says that He'll remain in the ground until thy wrath be past. Actually, just commented with somebody who said that they believed in pre-wrath, not pre-tribulation, but pre-wrath. But Job clearly says, when man dies, where is he? He vanishes like the cloud and all this. It says, hide me in my grave until thy wrath be past. What's God's wrath? Read Revelation. The bowls are being poured out. That's His wrath. So the resurrection and the rapture event doesn't happen until after that. And it says that we're going to be caught up to meet the Lord in the air, and forever will we remain. It doesn't say He's going to come down here and meet us. We're going to meet Him up there. And then it talks about that after the 1,000 years is finished, then the rest of the dead, which are the wicked, they come to life for resurrection judgment. And we're going to be part of that jury. We're coming back with Christ after 1,000 years to be a part of judging these lost people. So that is a huge deception, man. If so many people believe that when Christ comes, He's going to set foot on earth, perfect world for 1,000 years, that's what they're going to try to push. Look, we got this perfect utopia.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have for tonight. Unless you have some last comments, Mikey, I think I'm going to wrap up.
Oh, sounds good, man. This was a good show. I always enjoy getting invited on here, and I got to be on here for the most people in here. What's our numbers like?
Oh man, right now it's going down because we said we are going to leave. But
Oh yeah,
I think we had
over 100.
over 120. Yeah, so I'll look the
Nice.
stats just as we leave. But that's fantastic.
Cool.
This message is getting out. Be sure to hit that like button. Everyone that's listening right now has to
yeah.
hit that like button because it really helps. It spreads it. Every time you hit that like button, it shares it with more people, and that's really helpful. Everyone, thank you so much. Hit that little subscribe button, and also give me a little comment down in the chat so that we know that you're here and that you're supporting the channel. Thank you, everybody, for what you're doing, and I really appreciate all y'all. Let's have a little prayer before we go, Mikey. Would you say it?
Yeah. Lord Father in heaven, we just thank you for another day of life, another day of health, Lord, another opportunity to get to speak the truth to many people. And we just pray that if even one person got some new information here that made them, that just sparked an interest to look into this more, Lord, we thank you for that. And it was totally worth it. And we just pray that this message gets out. We know that Satan is angry because he knows he has a short time, and he is coming with wrath. And I see it all around me. I see relationships ending. I see people dying and sick, Lord. I believe you are coming soon, Lord, and I believe it is so important for us to uncover this deception, to shine light in the darkness, Lord. And I just pray for each and every one here that you would protect them, guard their hearts and minds, and fill them with your Holy Spirit, Lord. And I pray that this message just gets out far and wide. We love you so much for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mikey. I'm going to call you on Facebook Messenger afterwards. Don't go anywhere. Don't go to bed. Thank you, guys, and I really appreciate it. Have a great night. Take care, and God bless you. Thanks for watching this segment. Subscribe to our channel and join us every Thursday night for more daily strange topics and more. Find us on Discord by accessing patreon.com/strangenormal. See you there.